Hey everyone, Hex here. Well, today I want to know if I can get mega greedy and run 4 collected companies in a Greasefang deck on the Explorer ladder. So, for this deck I needed to change a relatively decent Abzan deck into more of a creature heavy version without losing the Greasefang and vehicle synergy. These Greasefang decks always seem to be on the edge of winning or losing on the flip of a card, so how different does Collected Company make it? Well, I didn't want to go too far away from our game plan, but hopefully surprise an opponent with a card they probably didn't expect to see. So deck wise, we're obviously running 4 Greasefangs, which have mana value of 3, so can be found with our Coco. We all know what this card does, but in essence it cheats out a vehicle from your graveyard with haste at the beginning of your combat. I had to keep sorceries and instants to a minimum in this version, but keep as much value as possible, so no Thought Seizes or Mulch here, but I'm playing 3 Old Rutsteins, which are great for ramping and milling, plus a decent blocker, and 4 Stitcher Suppliers to mill away my vehicles. Discard wise, 3 Seasoned Hallowblades as annoying creatures with repeatable free discard, and 4 Raffine Informants to connive on ETB. Apart from the 4 Cocos, we have 4 Fatal Pushes, and I brought in 2 Deadly Disputes. I love playing turn 1 Stitchers and a turn 2 Dispute to help mill and ramp, and Dispute also gives a small amount of card draw, which the deck cries out for here. My version plays 4 copies of Can't Stay Away, one of my favourite cards. Milling your Greasefangs or discard effects is a real problem, but this card enables the return of any creature necessary to win, hopefully. Don't be afraid to use this card to return a Raffine's Informant as well, to draw and discard. You don't always have to wait for a Greasefang to be in your graveyard. It also enables a turn 2 14 damage attack if you have one in hand. Stitchers played on turn 1 and you mill a Parhelion and a Greasefang. Vehicle wise, it's pretty standard, 4 copies of Parhelion, 3 Esika's Chariots with 21 lands. So I did manage a very good run of games with these, including a tight game against the Mire and a turn 2 combo I've always wanted to achieve. So stay tuned to see how greedy this deck can be with 4 collected companies. And with Dominaria United on the horizon, subscribe for loads more videos over the next few weeks. And let's jump into some games and see how we get on. Alright, game 1, and our hand looks pretty good here. We've got Collected Company, which is a great start. So probably want to do a turn 1 Supplier here. A lot of our lands are these shock lands, so we do take quite a bit of damage to ourselves as we mill over our Parhelion there, which is fantastic. See if we can draw a Greasefang sooner rather than later. Opponent with Raffine's Informant, so probably a mirror match here. We are playing Collected Company though, so let's see if that can break any board stalls or mirror matches. I'm sure it's just going to come down to the first player to play a Greasefang with the Parhelion. We both are playing the Abzan versions here, so Esika's Chariot also is an option. Alright, so conniving here, our very land heavy deck here. The Boseiju is nice in my hand as that can destroy a opponent's vehicle. Conniving there with a land doesn't put a counter on our Informant, so what's the opponent got? Thoughtseize, okay, a card we're not playing in our deck. That was cut as you don't want too many non-creature spells with your Collected Company, but Thoughtseize takes our Coco anyway, so that's fine. Tap land for us, nothing really to do here. The opponent knows what we've got. See what the opponent does. Shocks in a land. So, oh, with a move command. Okay. Alright, so they take out our Stitcher Supply. We do get to mill here. We've already got a Parhelion in the graveyard, so not really sure what else we need in there at the moment. I guess if we can draw a Can't Stay Away, that would be cool. So we had to cut the Witherbloom commands from our deck to enable more creatures for the Collected Company, but it's definitely a card that really should be in this Abzan deck. Okay, we draw an Old Rutstein here, which is a great way to mill cards and to create treasure. Opponent not looking great in their graveyard. So ideally I'd like to keep the Boseiju for when the opponent does play a vehicle. So in this instance, let's just get down our Chariot. Get some cats up and take it from there. Okay, so opponent's clearly got some kind of priority here. So let's see how long these cats last. Oh, just a Grizzly salvage. Okay, they get to reveal the top 5 cards of their library, put a creature or land from amongst them into their hand, and put the rest in the graveyard. I like this card. Couldn't find space for it in this particular version of this deck, but it's definitely in my non-collected company version. Alright, that would be nice, but opponent's the first one to play a Greasefang and bring back just the cat, or the Esika's Chariot, so it's going to get haste here. I think I'm just going to take the damage. So one good thing about this deck is you always seem to be just one card away from a Parhelion, which is 13 damage in the air, so you always got to hold on to that hope that you are gonna top deck here. Just debating whether to block. I think in this instance I can take 4 damage. Esika goes back to their hand. Okay, another Informant, not particularly what I want to see here. But we're gonna play the Old Rutstein here. This is a 1/4 when it ETBs or at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to mill a card. And depending on what card that is, you will get a blood token, a treasure token, or an insect. As we mill a Seasoned Hallowblade and get a insect out of it. So at the least, that's a decent blocker here. If the opponent has a way to get that Esika into their graveyard, then we are going to get pummeled for another attack by it. So not looking too great here, but okay. So opponent Assassin's Trophy our Rutstein. A couple of basics in our deck for this particular reason. So we're down to 12. If they can get a, like I said, if they can get a Parhelion into their graveyard, we're dead. But we're not looking too great anyway, but we're going to hold out hope that we're going to get through here. So opponent gets to actually just hardcast their Chariot. It's a good thing with having that card in the deck rather than the Sky Sovereign. It's a castable threat, and choosing not to attack. I may have attacked there with the cats just to force some damage through. Can't Stay Away is a decent draw. We haven't managed to mill a Greasefang yet, so just going to play the Informant, see if we can draw into that. I'm always optimistic with drawing cards that I need off the top of my deck. Fatal Push is interesting. It's not really a card I want to connive away. We really could do with the Boseiju. I guess the Can't Stay Away has to go, unfortunately. We would be able to flash it back if we had, well, if we want to play the Boseiju here. So opponent's just looking in our graveyard. I think we can just hold back again. They're looking in their own graveyard here, see what they can bring back. Can't Stay Away. Bring back the Informant. Connive away, so they can connive away any Parhelions they might have in their hand, but they don't. They just have another Chariot. So we're living a charmed life here. As opponent brings back a second Chariot. Create a couple more cats. This one has haste. Alright, so we have 4 blockers. Opponent has an incredibly wide board. Holding back the Boseiju has allowed us at least to target the Esika's Chariot here. It's not ideal, but that's why we held back on this card, just to try and save us some life. We need to find a way to get rid of this Greasefang as well. We do have Fatal Push, so when some of our creatures leave the battlefield here, we will be able to do that. I'm just going to go for a large attack. I mean, whatever way we block, we need to survive this turn. We need to survive the following turn. So yeah, I gave up working out what I need to do and just throw everything in front of their cats. We get a Fatal Push the Greasefang as we draw our own Greasefang, which was lucky, to say the least. We do have a Parhelion in our graveyard, so we get to play that. It has haste, it will attack, get a couple of 4/4s. Opponent down to 3. We're only on 10. So this is an interesting turn. Can they beat us? So they have 11 damage on board. They need to find a way to get rid of our angels here. They play their Can't Stay Away, and there's another Greasefang. Well, they can't stay away for their Greasefang. And there's a Fatal Push. So they destroy one of our angels. We get to crew the Chariot in response to get another blocker out. And I haven't done the math here. I'm just going to throw my biggest creatures in front of their biggest creatures and see what we can do. Opponent copies a cat. And like I said, just block the biggest creatures and see what the damage total is. And we go down to 2. Alright, nice one. So we were probably very fortunate there, but that's the way this deck is. Always a top deck away from winning. Okay, on to game 2. After that first game where we won right at the death. This hand, not looking too promising, but we have a few things to do, and the Raffine's Informants can draw some cards, so hopefully we can draw into some gas. Okay, Greasefang, that's a card we definitely want to see. So that changes our sort of thought process here. How quickly can we get one of our vehicles into our grave? So we get to connive with our Informant. Connive away my Informant there. Thinking back about it, it's not something I should have done. Alright, opponent with the Strict Proctor there. I think we need to keep as many creatures in our hand as possible. Strict Proctor is an annoying card that is going to affect us somewhat. It's going to slow us down a little bit. Our Stitcher Supplier and our Informant are not going to work as intended. Nor with Old Rutstein either. Rutstein has a ETB where we get to mill a card. Still going to mill in our upkeep, so we can get in there for 3 damage. Okay, so the Strict Proctor means that we're probably playing against a more controlling deck, which is not something I really want to see. The longer the game, the less likely I think we are to win. Opponent can telegraph our plays pretty easily here. So they've got a lot of mana. We draw our Deadly Dispute here, which is nice. I can get some card draw. I'm not really sure exactly how to play this now, so we do need to somehow find and mill our, or find or mill our vehicles. So we'll play this Seasoned Hallowblade here. I mean, we always have a plan B of just pressuring with 3 power creatures. We can get in there with our Informant here. Opponent's not going to block. So I'm already not looking forward to this particular game. Opponent shocks in a land themselves, and they get to Epiphany there. Is that turn 4? Epiphany. So they get to untap. and Growth Spiral. So they're ramping into something big. We're just a combo deck, so the birds are a little bit annoying here. If we do manage to find our Parhelion, they are going to be able to block. And they are only on 12, so if we could get the damage through, we do win. So we're just going to keep looking. I'm just going to keep digging here. Deadly Dispute. 2 copies of that in our deck. As we find a Supplier and a Takenuma. Old Rutstein mills a land, gain a treasure. So we've got a decent amount of land here. But nothing really going for us in our graveyard. Stitch a Supplier here. Again, if we can try and mill away one of our vehicles, then our Greasefang can at least find that. Strict Proctor is going to tax us though, so we can pay the cost there. All right, so we milled away our one of our collected companies. I think that would have been a good card to have in our hand in this particular matchup. If opponent is playing counter magic or they're playing big spells, at least we could have played an instant speed. An instant speed collected company. Quite well. All right, shocking another land. This time I think we're just going to go for Greasefang. See if we can get it at least on the battlefield. I'm already not particularly thinking that we're going to win this game. Opponent with 5 cards in hand. Lots of mana. And yeah, there's a march. I mean, I can't just not play my cards here, so we'll attack with our Rutstein. No point attacking with a Hallowblade. I don't really want to discard either of my cards in my hand. Alright, opponent, you have a lot of mana here. Let's try and put us maybe out of our misery. See what they're going to do. As they shock in another land, so a big spell coming. Or just a large-ish Hydroid Crisis. What's that, a 5/5? Draw a couple of cards. Gain a little bit of life. It's another flyer though, something we can't really deal with unless we get our Parhelion on the battlefield. So we're top decking. It seems to happen a lot with this deck when you get into these sort of mid to longer games. We're really digging now, so let's see what we can find if we can loot our way our Takenuma. Just another land. And Old Rutstein mills a Can't Stay Away. So our graveyard looks pretty pathetic here. Lots of creatures, lots of cards we want in our hand, but nothing really in there that we would like in our to bring back with the Can't Stay Away. So I guess we just loot away another land, see what we can draw. Well, there's our Parhelion, so late to the party, but at least we have it now. Opponent is tapped out, so I mean, if we had a Greasefang in our graveyard, we'd definitely be attacking now with the 13 power of the Parhelion, but we don't. So we're just going to have to play out our land. So we're not dead on board, but I guess the opponent has ways to not die themselves. So we'll play Raffine's Informant, gets to connive, and okay, we draw another Parhelion, so at least we've got one into the graveyard now. We attack with our Supplier. Mill some more cards. Alright, there's our third Parhelion gone into the graveyard, so this is where they all were. And another Can't Stay Away. I was hoping for a Greasefang to go in there just then, at least then we could play it with our Can't Stay Aways. Opponent, Memories, Illusions. They've got so much mana and completely controlling this game. The stars have just not aligned here. And that's cool. Drawing another couple of cards. Another land. Opponent attacks all. I mean, that's a it's a bad sign. If they're not particularly worried about our attempt to kill them, then I mean, what do they have in their hand? As we do mill a Greasefang there with our Rutstein. Presumably this is all going to be 2 little too late. They do have 4 open mana. I'm guessing there's some kind of counter spell here. but you never know. So I'm just going to lead with the Deadly Dispute, I think, just to see if they are holding anything. Because we are going all out to try and win the game here. So we're going to win or lose on this turn. Get rid of one of these insects. And we just draw a couple more lands. Not really sure what I was hoping to draw then, but it was just literally to hopefully get the opponent maybe to counter. So we can't stay away our Greasefang, which resolves. That's nice. So 4 open mana for our opponent as we get to go to combat with our Parhelion. Surely they have something in their hands. As we attack all, fingers crossed here. Saddle the wreckage. Okay. I mean, what was I meant to do? You have to play out your cards. We were dead in the air anyway. We go down to 1. And opponent swings in for lethal. They had that game from the very beginning, but that's alright. Not a problem. We just move on to the next one and we take that on the chin, so... Alright, game 3 then, and yeah, I mean, this is an extremely good hand, so we're definitely going to be keeping this one. So we're going to try and get out there as fast as possible. So we'll start with our Supplier. Okay, well, we've milled a Greasefang and a Parhelion here, so that does mean that if we draw a Can't Stay Away on my next turn, we get to play Greasefang from our grave and cheat out Parhelion to attack for 14 next turn. So if there's ever a magic god out there, this is the time. And we do draw it. Excellent. I've been trying to do this for a long time. See how quickly the opponent scoops here. Because I certainly would. Yep, they saw that coming. Alright, that was a real quick one. On to game 4. Alright, after that turn 2 win the last game, this hand not quite so good, but we'll lead with a tapped land here. Still no collected companies on our game though that we've managed to resolve, so oh, we draw one here, so I mean, let's see if we can do that this turn as we play our Raffine's Informant. And we get to connive away our Parhelion. So once again, we're just a top deck away from doing a lot of damage. Opponent with a red mana on turn 1. And thinking what to do. And yeah, that's a castle there. So we're playing against Rakdos. So Greasefang would have been lovely at that point, but we just draw another land. Let's hope we get to resolve this collected company and see if it makes any difference to this deck. So we play our Hallowblade there. It's going to be difficult for the opponent to get rid of, but we do only have 4 cards in our hand and we have a finite amount of stuff we want to discard, so... Opponent thinking, and they play their Blood Tithe Harvester. Alright, so this is a Rakdos deck. Could be several different variations of this. So they shock in a land, go down to 15. So I'm presuming a Fatal Push or a Thoughtseize here. Okay, so we go to our instep and they just pass the turn. Alright, I was expecting a Thoughtseize to be honest. But we get to shock in a land and... Yeah, I definitely should be playing Coco here in my pre-combat main phase. I have no idea why I didn't at the time play it. I was always thinking about playing it in our opponent's end step, but yeah, I should have played it at that particular point. So that was a misplay by me, but that's fine as they Fatal Push my Informant. I mean, they did have Fatal Push, but that would not have been able to necessarily deal with our Greasefang, so yeah, we'll just continue. We've still got the option to play Coco as opponent Thoughtseizes, and I guess this is our time to play it. Let's see what we hit. just a Hallowblade, so that didn't go too well. I was kind of hoping to get at least the option of a couple of creatures. As opponent gets the Thoughtseize here. I mean, 2 vehicles ideally they would take. Our Deadly Dispute is actually a card we want to keep. They do actually get rid of our Esika's Chariot, which we would have played next turn anyway. So yeah, not particularly good turn for us there as they play the Fable. Let's see if we can bring this back. Opponent's on 13 life. Not sure what they're thinking about. I guess, do they attack or do they try to kill one of our Hallowblades? Obviously, I'll discard my Parhelion to save it. And just pass the turn. Okay, as we draw a land. I think in this instance we're looking to try and draw some gas. So let's dispute one of our Hallowblades. Can't Stay Away is a decent draw. Nothing in our graveyard we specifically want to bring back to try and see out this game. But there's a couple of creatures in there we can use to continue filtering through our deck. Tap land. So next time we can play Can't Stay Away anyway from our graveyard, so we may as well play it now. We find Informant. And we draw a land, and we get to discard our Parhelion. So we're under no particular pressure here from our opponent, as Fable triggers the second chapter, so they get to discard 2 and draw that many cards, or up to 2 and draw that many cards. So we kind of gummed up the board a little bit here. The Hallowblade is a really difficult card to get through. I mean, opponent would normally be incentivized here to attack with this 2/2 to draw some, to get some treasure as they play Chandra. And what they're going to do with Chandra here. They add mana, okay. And Stomp. Alright, makes sense. Stomp our Informant. Wasn't really doing anything anyway, so not a problem. I mean, they could have attempted to stomp our... Well, they could have stomped our Hallowblade there, which would have forced us to discard a card. And we do only have 2 cards in our hand, so I don't know if that would have been a better play there by opponent. We're not really pressuring them too much. We're going to block and discard here to keep our Hallowblade alive and kill their 2/2. And as we top deck a Greasefang. Yep, another top deck. So a running theme here is just hang in there as long as possible until your combo pieces line up. And opponent luckily is at exactly 13 life, and we can do exactly 13 damage here. Yeah, so we did it again. I mean, yeah, on to game 5. Alright, game number 5. So we've won 4, lost 1. Another hand with our combo pieces, which is nice. Maybe too many of our combo pieces as we draw our second Greasefang there. Opponent with a red mana. Haven't come across a mono red deck yet, so that'll be interesting as they play Burning Tree. Okay, something a bit more aggressive here. We have a decent blocker here with our Supplier, as that's stomped anyway. We get to mill 3. There goes a Parhelion, which is excellent. Alright, so if we can just get to turn 3 here without dying, at least we get to play our Greasefang and attack for a significant amount of damage. Opponent with another red creature. Alright, we're just going to slam our Greasefang. Opponent with 1 red mana open. Not too much they can do about that. And they scoop it up before we have a chance to do anything. So yeah. Pretty straightforward Greasefang combo there. Not very interesting, but on to the next. Alright, on to game 6. Hand looks okay. We have a Coco. I really want to see that card in action today. I don't want this to just be another Abzan Greasefang deck on the ladder doing what Greasefang decks do. I wanted to see if we can do something different, good or bad. So we already had a bad Collected Company earlier on this run, but we've won quite a few games. I think we're on 4-1 here. Opponent with some Dread Wanderers here. So I'm not really sure what they're up to, as we get to play a couple of Stitcher Suppliers. So we'll be looking for our 3rd and 4th lands as soon as possible. Opponent attacks all. Alright, well, I'm pretty sure that's an easy block. Just checking the card here, as I haven't come across this in any else, just to make sure that I wasn't falling into any kind of trap. So our Suppliers mill over 6 cards. And there's a Greasefang. Alright, so we just need land, really. Stay in the game, draw some land. Spawn of Mayhem there for our opponent. Until we get our Parhelion out, we are kind of susceptible to flyers, so we need to deal with the spawn here. His opponent unleashes their full hand basically onto the battlefield. Can't stay away is nice, so a Greasefang is in there. And there's our Parhelion, which is nice as well. So the good thing about Parhelion are that the angels have vigilance, which means they can block. So although we're not going to kill the opponent right now, they'll get a chance to block. Parhelion back into our hand. I think there was an Esika's Chariot in the graveyard there, so we get to bring that back next turn if we're unable to get this Parhelion into the grave ourselves. Opponent with a large attack. Can't afford to take the damage here, so we'll block the spawn here with 2 of our angels. We may not win the game on the next turn, but we certainly could have lost it on that turn. Alright, opponent with Rankle. And we draw Fatal Push, which is nice in itself. Still no 3rd or 4th land, so oops, trying to use Fatal Push there on Rankle. I some reason thought it was lesser mana. Not a problem. We do get to bring back our Esika's Chariot from the grave though, so at least we can attack for a bunch. And nice little combo here is that the Chariot can copy the 4/4 token, so it gives us a large blocker. Not sure how the opponent's going to block here. They decide to take out our Greasefang with their Rankle. Going to take 4 down to 1. So I could save my Chariot here, but you know, I think in this particular instance they were always going to go down to 1 anyway, and it might be better just to hold that Fatal Push until next turn. We're not particularly under any pressure, and we too have 2 4/4 flyers, so opponent scoops it up. Yep, that was a decent game there with only 2 mana. So on to the next game. Alright, game number 7 here. Still looking to play Collected Company and have it do something. Our hand is, I mean, we have Parhelion, we have Greasefang. We seem to have had that a lot today, which is always good. We just need a way to discard that Parhelion and we'll be golden here. Opponent with a Scorch Spitter and a Runaway Steamkin. Alright, so a mono red deck. Scorch Spitters would suggest a Cavalcade of Calamities. I haven't seen that for a long time, but I used to love that deck. So we can play our Greasefang here with no targets from the graveyard. We have another one in our hand if we need it. It's a decent blocker. Opponent's pretty incentivized to kill it if they have the means in their hand, but they just run out another Steamkin. Okay, so I'm not really sure what they're playing, but this could be some kind of combo deck, so we need to deal with this as quick as possible. As we draw a Collected Company, which is interesting. So we do have Parhelion in our hand, so this Collected Company, I mean, with the right hits, we could discard the Parhelion as we play it, and we draw our Raffine's Informant and a Hallowblade, so that's excellent there. Finally, Coco managed to do something. And yeah, we can discard our Parhelion there with the Informant. And Greasefang can bring it back from the grave, and we can attack in here for 13. So, opponent's not dead. I'm really not sure exactly what they're playing here. And as they have passed to their turn, I'm a little bit concerned that we're going to get comboed out as they add more counters to the Runaway Steam King. Pyromancer. Not sure what they can have here. Spitfire. Alright, so we managed to get our combo at exactly the right moment, because I think would have been taking a lot of damage right now. Opponent passes the turn. They do have a couple of blockers here. We get to discard our Parhelion with our Hallowblade there. And yeah, we'll just go to combat again. An opponent decides to scoop it up before we manage to attack. Decent win there, and we managed to get Collected Company to work. Alright, so 7 games down and we went 6-1, which is a pretty good return for any Greasefang deck on the ladder. Our only loss came against that Bant deck, which didn't go well from the start, so that's okay. I mean, Coco didn't seem to make too much of an impact on the games we played, and it did put a bit of a constraint on the deck building, so it's probably not worth it to run it in these decks. I would have preferred some instants and sorceries to help fill the grave at certain times rather than roll the dice with a Coco. But I guess it's always fun to cast to see what you do draw. Most of the wins were just combo in the old-fashioned way. But we take those, and we even got to see a turn to 14 damage attack, which was nice. Well, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more, feel free to subscribe, as with Dominaria United on the horizon, there are loads of new decks that I'm going to be trying out. So, until next time.